Dawn over the Nile. As the first light of dawn spreads over the Nile Valley, the ancient Egyptians awaken. The river glistens, reflecting the pink and gold hues of the early sun. The Nile was the heartbeat of Egypt, its source of water, transportation, and fertility. Every aspect of life revolved around its annual flood, which brought rich black soil that made agriculture possible in an otherwise desert land. Farmers begin their day by checking the irrigation channels, adjusting wooden sluices to guide the water into the fields. For them, the Nile was not just a river, it was a god. They called him Happy, the bringer of abundance. Life of the Pharaoh. Far from the farms, inside a palace surrounded by lush gardens and decorated with murals of divine victories, awakens the Pharaoh, the living god on earth. He was believed to be the bridge between the gods and men, the one responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order of truth and balance. His morning begins with purification. Priests anoint him with sacred oils, dress him in fine linen, and adorn him with gold jewelry. The pharaoh would then attend to matters of state, reading reports from scribes, consulting with his vizier, and making decisions about taxation, construction, or war. Despite his godly image, the pharaoh's duties were immense. He was expected to ensure that the gods were pleased, the temples were maintained, and the people had food. A single bad flood could bring famine, and it was the pharaoh who would be blamed. The nobles and officials. In the nearby city of Memphis, noble families and high officials rise to begin their administrative work. These men, often relatives or trusted servants of the pharaoh, oversaw the running of Egypt's provinces. They lived in spacious villas, with whitewashed walls, shady courtyards, and servants who prepared bread and beer for breakfast. Officials would spend their mornings reviewing grain storage, land surveys, and trade accounts. Writing was essential for administration, and that was the domain of the scribes. Using reed pens and black ink on papyrus, scribes documented everything, from tax records to love poems. In a world without computers or even paper as we know it, they were the keepers of order, the memory of Egypt. The priests and temples. As the morning sun climbs higher, the temples of Egypt come alive. Priests begin the rituals that keep the gods content and the universe in balance. Each day, statues of the gods were washed, dressed, and offered food, just as if they were living beings. The temple was more than a place of worship. It was the heart of the community, a center for education, medicine, and even economic activity. Temples owned land, employed workers, and stored vast amounts of grain and treasure. The high priests wielded great power, sometimes rivaling that of the pharaoh himself. Religion was not separate from politics, it was politics. The artisans and builders. By midday, the workshops of Egypt are buzzing with activity. In Thebes and Deir el-Medina, artisans carve statues, paint tomb walls, and craft jewelry for the elite. Deir el-Medina was home to the workers who built the royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings. They were highly skilled and well paid, a rare privilege in the ancient world. Their murals, which survive to this day, show not just gods and kings but also scenes of their own lives, eating, playing, and even arguing. These artists gave Egypt its face, immortal beauty carved in stone. The farmers and laborers. Meanwhile, most Egyptians, nearly 90% of the population, worked the land. Their rhythm followed the Nile's flood cycle, inundation, planting, and harvest. During the flood, when fields were underwater, many farmers were recruited to help build temples, pyramids, and canals. Life was hard. The sun was relentless, and tools were simple, wooden plows pulled by oxen, sickles made from flint. Yet, they produced the grain that fed an empire. Their diet was humble but nutritious: bread, beer, onions, and fish from the Nile. Even the poorest Egyptian took pride in his work, believing that honest labor was favored by the gods. Women of ancient Egypt. Unlike many other ancient societies, Egyptian women enjoyed remarkable rights. They could own property, run businesses, and even divorce their husbands. Some became powerful figures: queens, priestesses, even pharaohs, like Hatshepsut. A woman's day might begin by managing the household, supervising servants, preparing meals, or weaving linen. Some women worked as midwives, dancers, or musicians in temples. Marriage was a partnership, and love poems from ancient papyri show deep affection between husbands and wives. Children were cherished. Toys made of wood and clay have been found in tombs, along with tiny amulets for protection. The soldiers and defenders. As afternoon shadows stretch, soldiers train near the fortress walls. The Egyptian army protected the borders and guarded the trade routes to Nubia and the Near East. Training was rigorous: archery, chariot driving, and close combat. Soldiers were often rewarded with land or gold for their service. Some were career warriors, others, simple farmers called to arms in times of need. War was not constant, but Egypt's power depended on its ability to defend the Nile and control vital trade routes. Trade and markets. As the sun begins to dip, the marketplaces fill with life. Merchants shout prices, donkeys carry baskets of vegetables, pottery, and linen. Barter was common: grain exchanged for fish, or jewelry for perfume. Egypt traded far and wide, with Nubia for gold and ivory, with Lebanon for cedar wood, and with the Mediterranean for copper and wine. The marketplace was not only a place of trade, but of gossip, laughter, and social connection. Evening rituals. As night falls over the Nile, the day draws to a close. Families gather around simple clay lamps for supper, usually bread, vegetables, and beer. They thank the gods for another day of life. In temples, priests recite hymns to help the sun god Ra in his nightly journey through the underworld. The people sleep trusting that the sun will rise again, that order will be restored, and Ma'at will continue.